Hey YouTube, it's now a month in of me owning my Jeep Wrangler, so I'm doing a follow-up video to the one I made a month ago about how I feel about owning a Jeep Wrangler. I know that when I was looking at Jeeps, doing research, I watched a lot of videos on YouTube of people's opinions, and they were actually really helpful, so I figured I'd help out anybody who's considering buying a Jeep. Might want to watch this video, and it might help, it might not, it's up to you. But let's go for a ride and I'll tell you some things of how I feel. So January 30th of 2017, I bought a 2015 Wrangler Unlimited Willy's wheeler. I bought it from a dealership. A friend of mine's a salesman there, so he got me a good deal. It was bought in June of 2015, and it's only got when I bought it, I had 21,000, around just over 21,000. It's now got 22,344. So I've put 1,300 kilometers on it in a month. So I don't do a whole lot of driving, but I do enough driving. It's basically just my daily driver. I drive around town. Don't go too far in it. My girlfriend's got a small car, so if we go out of town, we just take her car. It's better on gas anyway. But one of the things I noticed that I was worried about is how it handled in the snow. I mean, it helps, yeah, obviously it's got four-wheel drive and everything, but it doesn't have snow tires on it. And every car I've owned up until now, being that I live in central Ontario, so snow tires are pretty important. But being that it has four-wheel drive and everything, I wasn't too sure. So, but I mean, I do have the BFG mud terrain tires on it, so they have pretty thick treads on them. I haven't noticed any issues. If it's a little slippery, I just put it in four-wheel drive and it's fine. So I haven't gotten stuck anywhere. I haven't really slid too far. You might, if you hit the brakes really quick on a snowy road, you might slide a little bit, but that'll even happen with snow tires, so there's not really much you can do about that. One thing I did notice that's kind of odd, being that this is a 6-speed manual, I've always had 5 speeds. This is my third manual. The first 2 cars that I had were 5-speed. This has a 6-speed standard in it. I noticed that when going from 5th gear into 6th gear, it doesn't quite go straight back. I don't know if it's a safety thing or what, but when you come out of first or third, and you go back into 2nd or 4th, it goes straight back into gear. Whereas this one, when you're in 5th, when you go into 6th, you have to almost move it a tiny bit to the right and back. So it's I don't know if that's intentional, but it's one thing I've noticed. Maybe it's just this one, but it's not too bad. You get used to it, but it's just kind of the first few times you try to change and you pull it back into gear, it kind of hits and you're going, what the heck's going on? You got to kind of just move it a tiny bit to the right and back. Also, because reverse is to the right of 6th gear, sometimes when I put it into reverse, I don't go far enough to the right, because you got to push it quite a bit to the right and back to go into reverse. But I think that's the same with any 6-speed manual. It's not necessarily a Jeep thing. One thing I did notice about it, I have the hard top. I did get both tops with it. I have the hard top on. It was on it when I got it, and obviously it's winter time, so I'll keep the hard top on until the spring. You get drafts from time to time. It's not exactly the warmest vehicle. Now the heater does work really well. You have the heat on and you have it cranked. It gets pretty toasty in here, in the front seat anyway. I a few times had people in the back, and they say it's not exactly the warmest back there, but I mean, I'm driving it, so I don't really care. But if you regularly had people in the back seat, it's not exactly the warmest. Also, like I said, I have the mud tires on here, and they fling a lot of snow onto the back fenders. So when people get in and out of the back, you gotta regularly wipe that stuff off, or else when people get in and out, they get their pants kind of dirty on it. So it's not really a logical vehicle if you're carrying passengers in the back a lot. But I mean, it's part of what it is. You're probably noticing right now the screen's vibrating, video's vibrating a lot. That's another thing, is it's not a soft ride. But again, you don't buy a Wrangler thinking it's going to be a luxury vehicle. It doesn't ride the smoothest. It also has to do with the tires that are on it too. I mean, these are pretty beefy tires, so you get a lot of road noise. You just hear the tires a lot. And it doesn't help that the roof isn't insulated either, so you do get some road noise, but I haven't noticed it being too bad. It is noticeable though. If you actually pay attention and you listen for it, you do hear a lot of road noise, and I'm sure it's going to be worse once I get the soft top on. I'm debating whether or not come next summer, next fall, when I go to put the hardtop on, if I'm going to get, you can buy a liner that sticks on to the inside that gives you a little, it insulates a little bit better, it absorbs a little bit more road noise. So I don't, depending on the price, I don't know if I'm going to bother, but it's just something you get used to. Another thing I've noticed, the sound, the audio isn't the best. It is better than my Lancer was, but it was an older car, so obviously the sound system is quite a bit better in this, but it's not really the loudest. I mean, it maxes out, and it's comfortable when you're driving, but I would imagine if you had the top off, which I haven't had the chance to do yet because it's been winter in Canada, so last thing I'm going to do is take the top off, but I would imagine if the top is off, you wouldn't really hear all that well. But I've seen a few videos on YouTube of people that buy polyfill, and you take the speakers off in the right up in here in the sport bar. You pull the speakers out and you stuff them full of polyfill, which is kind of like plastic insulation. So I might consider doing that in the spring, especially if I'm going to be taking the top off, obviously. So I might do that and see if it helps. But all in all, the sound is great. It sounds pretty great. I don't have the Alpine system, so I don't have the subwoofer and the upgraded speakers and everything. Which, if I was buying new, I probably would upgrade to that. I mean, I'm a big music guy, so I do like having good sound. So that's something I would, if I was buying brand new, I would consider. It's also something I could always upgrade, but obviously it'd be expensive. All in all, I'm pretty happy with this. I mean, it is expensive, but you buy a Jeep, you know they're going to have resale value, so you expect to spend a good chunk of change on it. I mean, if it makes any difference to you, it's a 2015, like I said, it's the unlimited, so it's the 4-door. It had 21,000 kilometers on it. I don't know what that is in miles, but and I paid 35,000 Canadian for it, so I did. It was a lot of money to shell out for a 2.5-year-old vehicle, but I was looking at 2012s with 125,000 kilometers on it, and they were still selling for 25, 26, 27,000. So there's, all in all, I think I got a pretty good deal. This brand new was worth 43,000, I think, around that. So I basically saved myself about $8,000, essentially, to let somebody drive it for 2.5 years. So it's worth it, I think. I'm gonna get my money's worth out of it. So I plan on having it for a long time, so it's not a huge deal. But all in all, I mean, it's been good. It's been I'm pretty happy with it. It rides a lot. Actually, I heard a lot of people complaining, saying that Jeeps the steering is sloppy. You kind of end up all over the road. But I haven't really noticed that. I did notice, I'm on the highway right now, and I have noticed that when you're driving on a highway at higher speeds, especially if it's windy, you do feel the wind kind of pulling you, like hitting the side of the vehicle and kind of pulling a little bit, but that's all just because it's not a very aerodynamic vehicle. I'm sure the same thing happens when you're in a truck. I haven't driven my dad's truck enough to really know, but I'm assuming if you drive a full-size truck, it's going to be the same thing. Fuel economy, obviously, you don't buy a Jeep assuming it's going to be good on gas, because it's not. It's not good on gas. It's pretty bad. But if you do most of your driving just in town, you don't really have to worry too much. It'll be fine. It's not like you're driving a transport truck and you're going to be going through whatever 40 liters of gas a week. It's not that bad. I've had this for almost exactly a month, and I think I filled up 3 times, but most of the time I don't fill it up to full. Put about $60 in it, and so in a month it's cost me about probably $140 fuel. So, and I drive it a lot, just around town mostly. So, I can't really think of what else. I do have one thing that was a pain, not a pain, but it was noticeable, that I've addressed. So I've noticed the hood. First of all, I didn't like the fact that the hood doesn't lock. There's no way to secure the hood. So if you were parked somewhere and somebody came along and decided they wanted to steal your battery, they could. They could just open the side latches and lift the hood. And I didn't like that. I like things being secured, even though I don't have anything under the hood that's valuable, like aftermarket or anything like that. But at some point I do, then it's good knowing that I fixed that. So what I did is I bought something called a bolt hood lock or something for a Jeep, and it was a pain in the butt trying to find a rivet tool, but it comes with 4 rivets. You rivet onto the back of behind the front grille, and you key it to your ignition key, and you can unlock it with your key. So that means that if anybody comes along and tries to open your hood, they can't, because it's locked. I think a lot of European vehicles have similar devices on it. I think all Jeeps that are sold in Europe have it standard as a Mopar accessory. I don't think they can sell it in Europe without it. So I don't understand why they don't put them on all of them, but it was $60. I got it off of eBay. They're not eBay, Amazon. And I installed it myself in about 2 minutes. And now the other thing is, when you're driving on a highway, you notice that the hood kind of they call it fluttering, or it kind of bounces, because the only thing that's holding it down are the latches on the sides of the hood, and they're made of rubber, so they're not really the most stable thing. They kind of bounce. It does wobble a little bit when you're driving, and I think it's just from the air that goes up underneath the hood, just pushes it up a little bit. So with the hood lock in there now, it's locked down. It's not moved. It doesn't move. So I'd say it's a good $60 to spend, a good aftermarket edition. Yeah. Other than that, I've been pretty happy with it. Other than it gets really dirty really quickly, especially on the back fenders and on the sides. It flings up a lot of stuff. So, but it's a Jeep. I mean, all I have to do is I just go into the car wash and just spray it down. It doesn't have to be clean. I just want to get all the mud and slush and everything off of it. So spray it down for $3 or $4. The car wash, that'll do. That's pretty much it. If anybody has any questions, feel free to comment in the comment section. I'm not sure whether I'm going to get into the whole YouTube making videos. I just figured I'd create a couple, because I did appreciate people's honest opinions when I was looking to buy it. I've been doing research for 6 months. I know almost anything there is to know about these things, so I made sure that I knew what I was getting into, knew all the downsides and all the upsides of having a Jeep. I'm looking forward to, in the spring, being able to take the top off and maybe even the doors off. I probably won't do that often, but it's something I'm looking forward to having the option to do anyway. But again, we'll see. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and try to respond to them if I can. I know my first video didn't get that many views, but I'm hoping that maybe it'll catch on. Maybe people start to see them, but we'll see. I just figured I'd do this for the fun of it. So anyway, take care and talk to you later. Bye.